Hi, teachers. I'm Walter from EOT in Brazil, and this is Bruno, my partner. We're here today
Hi,
to
everyone.
talk a little bit. Yep, we're gonna talk a little bit about lesson objectives, lesson aims, if you will. Do you know what's a good aim? We're gonna find it out today in this lesson. Bruno, roda a vinheta.
Roda a vinheta. All right, so welcome everyone to EL Team Brazil. Walter, we're talking about aims. So why bother? Why do we design aims for a lesson?
This is this is the ultimate question, right?
I think so.
Uh, and the answer is actually kind of simple. If you're teaching somebody how to do that, how can you teach somebody something if you don't know what you want to achieve? So
Mhm.
you're always going to have some sort of objective for a lesson, and I mean that despite the subject you're teaching, right? A lesson always has a why. Those are going to be your
Or,
aims. So we're
or
always going
at
to need that.
least it should, right? At least it should have a why. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
Well,
uh,
and that said, I think we can actually say that if a lesson doesn't have a why, and therefore there's no lesson objective, how could it be a good lesson, right?
right. Yeah,
So
there's
there
no
begs the
point for the
question.
lesson. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. Well, would you like to comment
Uh,
more about that?
Uh,
Like, I don't know
no,
if you want to add
I
some.
think that's the point. I like this. There's this passage from Alice in Wonderland that
No.
she's lost in the woods. She doesn't know which
Mm,
way to go, and then I think it's the first time she sees the cat, right? And then she
mm,
says, "Oh, I'm lost. I don't know where to go." And the cat asks, "Where do you want to go?" And she says, "Oh, I don't know." And he says, "Well, then, anyway, we'll do." Right, so just run any way you'd like. So if there's no objective, there is no point to doing the activities in the lesson. There's no point of having a lesson whatsoever. So I think this is key planning. If you don't have this is what I usually tell teachers when I'm in training sessions. If you don't have time to plan a lesson, think of the objective of the lesson at least, and then go in the lesson with an objective in mind, right?
yes. Well, two things to add to that. I know that the majority of people who are watching this video, they are probably teaching at some institution, right? And they probably have some course books that they follow. I think most of you, our followers, do have those. So think this way. When you open the book and, oh, okay, this is what you're going to teach, and you look at the end of the lesson, you may even circle that. The person who wrote the book, you can ask yourself, why did they plan this?
Mm-hmm.
What is the objective of that? That's going to be the objective of the lesson.
Yes,
Usually it is.
usually it is, definitely.
Usually it is.
So Walter,
Yeah.
we're talking about why we design aims,
Hmm.
but we know that there are good lesson aims and lesson aims that are not very good. Can we
Hmm.
start with those? What, in your opinion, is a bad lesson aim?
A bad
Or a
lesson name.
not perfect, not excellent lesson aim, let's say.
You're being political about
Yes, we got
it.
her.
um, well, imagine that you're going to start a lesson with something that is not realistic or something that people don't do in real life. They don't do it in the real world. So to me, that would be a bad lesson name. Like
Mhm.
in this lesson, students will be better able to use the present perfect. Why?
What
So
for?
it, what for?
Mhm.
Like like, do you ever go out there and talk to native
Using the
speakers
present
or
perfect.
non-native speakers who are not teachers? I mean, in
Uh-huh.
real life, it's like, let's talk about the, the present perfect. I don't see
Mhm.
that happening.
Yeah,
So
true.
to me, that's an example of a lesson
Uh-huh.
objective that is inconclusive and just doesn't work. And plus, it's not motivating to the student.
I like
So
that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I like that idea. Because and when you mentioned, so the students will use the present perfect, there is a characteristic there that we find in very good lesson aims. That aim is, even though it's not the best, it's focusing on something that students will be able to do. It's very common to find um, teachers who are inexperienced in this field of planning lessons and planning formal lesson objectives, to focus the objective on them, so on the teaching and not on the learning. So
Hmm.
for example, students who use the present perfect is uh, by a wide margin better than in this lesson I will teach the present perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that there's
Mm.
improvement there. So I'm thinking of you're thinking of something for the students, right?
Mm-hmm.
um
And mind you, like in this lesson, students will be able to use the present perfect is and could totally be part of the final lesson
mm,
objective,
yes,
or
yes.
or it could also be your aim. It
Mhm,
might be your aim, but we have to incorporate, we have to bring the student to the lesson objective, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
how do I make this something that makes sense to the student,
mhm,
right? So yeah, okay, my lesson aim is that I want my students to be able to use the present perfect. Fine. But how is this going to work for the student? So we think about the student and we're going to make this work, and this is
mhm.
what we're going to do in this lesson, right? We're going to think
Yes,
about ways
yes.
to make this work for the student, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
in a realistic way.
mhm. I
can
think
i
we can
can I add one
segue
more?
to, sure.
Can I add
Uh-huh.
one more? Another example of a lesson objective that doesn't work is one that becomes forgotten in the lesson. Like
Okay.
if you gotta be able to do what you set out to do.
Mhm.
And another one would be if your lesson objective is unattainable.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's too
like
hard for students, or
yeah, it has to
mhm,
be attainable, it has to be achievable. So
mhm,
I would end with those.
mhm. Yeah, I think we kind of segued into what's a good aim, right? So you mentioned we mentioned that it has to be focused on students, it has to be attainable, it has to be uh connected to something that students will do in the real world. um I think a good aim also has a very clear purpose in it. So when you were saying students will be able to use the present perfect, I think as you mentioned, it's almost there, right? So to use the present perfect to do what? To talk about life-changing experiences that they have lived, right? So this is one use of the
Simple as
present
that.
perfect, right? And then you have a context. I think that the best way to assess whether an aim is a good aim or a bad aim is it's focused on the student, it's focused on what students will be better able to do during the lesson, and there is a clear context,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right? So you can.
Okay. Can I include something in there, because I think we're opening a door to something that maybe more experienced teachers might think about it.
Hmm.
So again, gonna mention a little bit about you who wants to take the CELTA, right? Uh, if you are gonna take the CELTA, remember that your lesson objectives will be very complex and very thorough, very complete. They will describe things. It's not gonna be students will do blah 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 to talk about blah blah blah. But like there is more. Sometimes as long as 3 full lines. I mean, some lesson objectives will have about 50 words. Yeah, they become long, and there is a reason, right?
And again, don't worry. Your tutors will teach you how to do that, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
They'll show you
Yes.
how.
Yeah. And well, you practice those, but I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't, start incorporate including those things in your lessons now. If you want to do that in the future, why not, right? Bruno, should we talk about the good ones then?
I think we should show some examples now. Don't you think?
Yes. Let's go on. Let's take a look at those. Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. Well, we wrote some for you here. Let's take a look at them individually. So let me just put it down here. So this first objective, I would like you to read it to yourself and think, remember that we talked about lesson types, right? Like types of lesson. So is this a lesson about vocabulary, grammar? What is the main aim? And then you think of the subsidiary aim. What's the second one, right? The primary and the secondary. We could think that way. And you will be able to see which one of the skills or the systems is the primary one, and then you will see the secondary one, and then you have one name there together, right? So when you look at this first one, what do you see?
Oh, my camera died.
Right? Yeah, your camera died? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're back. Okay. So when you look at that, students will be better able to describe. Oh, yeah, I didn't write that part by the end of the lesson, but it's there. Just count on those, right? Students will be better able to describe their neighborhood using nouns to name places in town. Bruno, this is a real lesson objective that was used in a real lesson. Would you like to comment on that one?
Yeah. This was the lesson aim I used for my second lesson for Delta, module 2. It's a lesson on vocabulary, right? So we're talking about nouns, and as Walter mentioned beforehand, it's that language is of course it's connected, is central to the aim, but it's language to do something, right? So students will be describing their neighborhood, so you have a very clear context there. They will be using nouns to do that. So this is the main focus of the lesson, to name places in town, right? So this was a lesson that I think everybody has taught. If you've been teaching for more than 2 years, you have probably taught this lesson: hotel, hospital, cafe, supermarket, restaurant, right?
Absolutely. Can I include something there? And it's related to what you said. Think that just bear with me for a moment. You're gonna write a lesson objective. 2 things that you wanna consider when you're writing that objective. Think of the component that you want the students to perform. Is it a skill, or is it a system? For example, let's say the component is writing. And then you think of the condition. The condition is like in what way in real life they would do that. For example, any idea, Bruno?
For example, talking about their neighborhood, describing their neighborhood to a friend.
Okay, on an email to a friend, for example, maybe an email to a friend, that would be your condition. So You know the component you want them to perform. You know the condition they're gonna perform, and then you think of the objective. Students will be better, right, Bruno? Better able
Better able
to
to.
write emails to friends. You have that. Now, do you have a second component? Easy vocabulary?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Lexis, grammar, something like that. You would include that there, right? This one started well. We would need to complete it. We'll get back
Mm-hmm.
there later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bruno, anything
Yeah.
to add to the first one?
Yes. Before we talk about how we assess this aim, I think I really like the use of being better able to do something instead of being able to do something. Because when you say that students will be able to describe their neighborhood using da da da, you're saying that students cannot, which is a very strong assumption to make before going to the classroom, right?
Yes.
English is a lingua franca. English is everywhere. It's in songs. Our students are listening to Taylor Swift like crazy now. So they will be gathering vocabulary and language from many different sources. So saying that students don't know how to do something and that you will teach them how to do that, it's even a
Sounds a
bit
little
arrogant.
arrogant.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does. It
So
does.
it,
Students who, what's the premise there, right? Like students will be able to do it, which means they are not able now,
mm-hmm. And
right?
I shall impart this knowledge. Yeah.
I
So
love it.
yeah, I think it's probably way too much.
Almighty teacher.
Yeah. And then by saying that they will be better able, you're saying that they might already know how to do that. In a way, Vini Nobri, fantastic person, tutor, mentor. He has this example that he says. So, for example, if I go to KFC to buy chicken, right? If I get to the front desk there and I say hi to Coco, please, I get my food, right? So
You
I
come.
am in a way able to order food at a restaurant, right?
Mhm.
So the idea here is that we're going to build on that so that students don't have to say Coco when they go to a restaurant, right? So we're giving them words, we're giving them more language to be better able to do that.
I really love that example.
And onto assessment, because we don't teach out of faith, right? We teach based on assessing and data. We want to be able to tell whether or not, or to which extent, students achieved the lesson aim. A good lesson aim will give you the assessment activity, the last activity you're going to do to assess the aim. So, for example, students will be better able to describe their neighborhood using nouns to name places in town. The last activity is something like, I'm sorry, students in pairs, they draw a map of their neighborhoods and they navigate their friends through the map using the nouns, right?
Makes sense.
I think it's one activity. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that is a good one, and it's complete. You can, I think, before we started this video lesson, we were talking, and you said something before, which is, I'm able to look at that objective and I know where you're going with it. I can picture the lesson. I can think of ways to do that. And you already know that that is an attainable a lesson aim, right? So it works. So I like that. Bruno, let's take a look at the next ones, shall we?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have time to cover all of them.
Mhm.
Can you choose one? Choose one you like, and then we'll talk about it. By the
Okay.
way, people, on the screen now, if you'd like to pause, we have an aim for all four skills: listening, reading, speaking, writing, and grammar and vocabulary. So if you'd like to take a look, these are some examples we came up with.
Yes.
Walter.
Take a pause there, read it, see
Yeah.
if you can tell what they are one from
Mhm.
another. Instead of looking at these ones, I'd like to finish that one. What do you think?
Sure.
Let's say we want to use vocabulary as a secondary aim there, or no, even better. What about connectors? Because they are part of Lexis, but they're also a part of organization. So when you're writing, you're teaching writing, you have to think about organization. So students will be better able to write well organized emails.
Yeah, we've got two emails there. Right
Oh,
email. Yeah. Oh no, just delete that one. Yeah. Organized emails.
organized emails. Informal emails, we could do that, or
Okay.
formal, depends on what you want. And I would like to add something here, because we said condition. You may wanna add like let's say how well there. Put it there. How well do you want them to do it? Right? So students will be better able to write well organized informal emails. Also, a part of the condition is to whom. You have to, if it's writing, who's the reader? Right? So that's something you need to include in there. To family members, and then in the condition you can go on, you can be like to family members who live away, or to friends who they haven't seen in a long time, something like that. Because you see, you would actually have to write more if it's to somebody who lives away, so you can think of that and use it as part of the objective. I would like to tell you one of the references for this lesson. It's a book by Nunan, 1998. It's called Syllabus Design. Very good book. If you can, if you have access to it in the library at the school where you work, I don't know. It's dense, but it's a very, very good book, very complete. And you have things about objectives there, things that we didn't really touch on today in this lesson because they might get a little complicated. We wanted to keep things a little simpler, let's say. Bruno, anything else you wanted to add? Maybe I can go back to the slide. I don't know.
I think we should do one more aim so that we can discuss
One more.
another assessment activity.
Do you want to write or look at the ones we wrote?
Oh no, we got good ones. Let's talk
good.
about that writing one. Students will be better able to write a simple recipe for a dish they like. One thing, so again, it's clear what students will do in class, right? So this is a writing class. It's focused on a specific genre. It's a recipe, right? You could include there who is the reader of this recipe, so maybe students can publish in a
For a
food
blog.
blog. Yeah, for a blog, something like that. And also one thing that it might sound obvious, but it's a very common, I wouldn't call it a mistake, I think it's a slip, is that the focus of your aim, you can only assess your aim with an activity that uses the same skill or system of the aim. To exemplify that, if it's a writing class, it's a writing aim. The goal is to produce written text. If the goal is reading, you assess while reading, or because I've seen reading classes in which students read the text in 5 minutes and then they did something else on vocabulary and post-reading activities and chatting, and they made a poster. But if the focus of the lesson is developing reading skills, most of the lesson should be spent on developing reading
Developing,
skills,
yes.
right? And not pre or post reading.
Okay, and
And I think
if you think about it, I've seen things that are that relate to that, like lessons which the lesson name was developing listening skills, and then the teacher only did 2 or 3 listening exercises from the book. Is that really listening development?
Mhm,
Development?
mhm,
Are you really developing the skills? If you're okay, maybe the book has great exercises, but
mhm,
did you actually, you have to be critical about these things, right? Like
mhm,
you look at the book and like okay, these exercises doing this exercise is doing that, right?
mhm,
And you are actually developing that skill, or
mhm.
otherwise, are you,
Yeah.
right? You may have
Uh,
to adapt, you may have to change, and most of all, okay, so you're developing the listening skills, you do the exercises, students got 50% of the answers wrong. What do you do?
mhm,
Because are they really going to achieve that lesson objective? Like, how are you going to tackle that? Are you going to play that one more time? Oh, but I don't have time because I planned this and that. But this is
mhm,
your main aim. Shouldn't it
mhm,
be prioritized?
mhm, mhm. Definitely.
Yes.
Um, I think that maybe if you forget everything you saw here today, um, maybe take away that aims should focus on what students will be able to do, will be better able to do. Um, a good aim gives you a clear idea of what's happening in the class, and it comes connected with an assessment activity or moment that is coherent to what you're trying to achieve.
Yes. And they are contextualized. The
Oh,
condition is
yes.
the context, the
Mhm,
context, right? So
mhm,
uh, it just I know they may be a little complex, they might be a little, confusing at times, I guess. Like but being able to identify, if let's say you're not going to have primary and secondary aims, you're just going to have one, think of the main aim, simplify it a little more, but make sure that there is the component you want them to perform, and there is a condition, they're contextualized. You probably have some attainable aim that is coherent, that makes sense to the student. Think that will
mhm.
be it. Yes.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, Bruno, I forgot to ask them in the beginning. I gotta do it.
Oh, yeah. Like,
I gotta do
subscribe,
it.
register, click on the sininho na estrela, whatever it
And
shows.
and leave us a comment. Yes,
Oh,
we are
yeah.
gonna answer you, and because
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference to us. First, because we know we have people out there who are interested, and that this is
Mhm,
making a difference, and also because it helps the algorithm share
mhm,
it out there,
mhm.
so the video
Yeah.
reaches more people, more teachers. Yes.
And since we have like 3 followers, we can answer all comments. Isn't that great?
There you go. We really appreciate it, but we really
Yeah.
appreciate it. And don't forget to like it, smash that button there. All right.
Right.
And
So
are we forgetting something?
I don't think we are. Just a minor spoiler for next session, next class. We'll be
Mhm.
talking about lesson frameworks, right? So
Mhm.
expect to see I think we're going to tackle 2 frameworks next class and maybe 2 more on the other one. So stay tuned. And
Yes.
goodbye.
We'll see you there. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. See you next class.